Thank you, Aaron. I just have to adjust the mics for a second. Good afternoon, everyone. How are we all doing today? Well, hold on a minute. We are gathered like a meeting of minds from across Canada. How are we all doing today? Yes, that's better. I'm sure you've had an amazing day just getting to know each other and, of course, learning a lot from each other. I think these networking opportunities are extremely valuable. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that we are gathered here today in the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Stoney Nakoda, and the Tsuut'ina Nation. Southern Alberta is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta. It is so great to be back in Calgary. I was here just a few weeks ago, shortly after I was appointed as the new Minister of Small Business. So it feels especially fitting that I'm here again as we are about to enter this year's Small Business Week. For me, Small Business Week is every week. Canada's small businesses aren't small. Les petites entreprises canadiennes ne sont pas petites. They actually make up 98% of our businesses. A little less than 75% of all jobs are in small businesses and 36.7% of the GDP. So they are a huge driver of our economy. But I don't have to tell anyone here that it's never been easy to build a business from the ground up. And these last few years have been especially challenging for small businesses. Inflation, interest rate hikes, and worker shortages are just some of the hurdles small business owners are facing today. And on that note, I want to take an opportunity and a shout out and thank all the small business owners and workers across the country for the hard work you've been doing over the past few years. As Erin mentioned herself, I was an entrepreneur during the pandemic, and I know firsthand how hard it is. A few years ago, I made a leap of faith from a safe, secure corporate job in banking for 15 years to the very rewarding but very challenging reality of building a baking business. Shout out to all the bakers in this room as well. I know you're here. Before I get into it, I just want to get a raise of hands in the room who are either the only child or the oldest in the family. That's like more than half of this room. So I want you to now imagine that I'm the oldest in my family, and no pressure, but my parents, both Filipino, immigrated from the Philippines to Zambia, Africa, a little city called Kitwe where my brother and I were born. And then they wanted more for our lives. So they're like, okay, we're gonna immigrate to Canada. It was freezing, by the way. But we immigrated to Canada in 1989. And my parents had their hopes and dreams in me. No pressure. And so I did the guidance that they asked me to do. I went to school, I got a job, got married, had kids, and I literally ticked off all the boxes in my life. And I thought that was it. I had job security, I had benefits. I thought I had it made until the day when I baked my daughter's first birthday cake. Cassidy, who's now 8 years old, was one, and I decided, you know what? I'm gonna do something different today. I'm gonna make her birthday cake, and so I did. But what I didn't realize was happening was as I was baking her cake, I tapped into something much deeper in me, which was my creative passion. My creative passion lay in the ability for me to use my hands in baking, and ultimately became the catalyst for me to be a small business owner. I started that business and it turned into another. And really, it was not easy, sacrificing a full-time job, benefits, but I wanted to believe in myself. So Trevor earlier mentioned the power in unleashing the power that we have in small businesses. You cannot do that if small business owners are not motivated, if small businesses do not have the supports to be able to do what they're doing. And so I'm so grateful to my daughter, Cassidy, for being born, because now I am here. So I know it hasn't been easy, and the challenges, especially those in the hospitality and tourism sectors, continue to exist. So thank you for your hard work. Merci pour votre travail. But the good news is you don't have to tackle these challenges on your own. In fact, there have been more tools and supports than there have been to help Canada's entrepreneurs reach their goals. We know that small business owners have been asking for relief, and we've taken concrete action to try and provide this relief. We have successfully secured commitments from both MasterCard and Visa to reduce credit card transaction fees for small businesses, and these reductions are expected to save eligible Canadian small businesses nearly $1 billion over 5 years. And during the pandemic, I don't really remember the last time I've carried cash in my wallet, but everywhere we go, we're just tapping every single time we make those transactions. And those transactions add up for small businesses. So I'm looking forward to having those transaction fees reduced so it can further help small businesses. We kept our promise to cut taxes for small businesses from 11% to 9%. I think most people don't even know we've done that. And in Budget 2022, we expanded access to the small business tax rate so more growing small businesses can access the rate, saving them over $500 million and encouraging more to grow. And lastly, we all know businesses need support when it comes to their CEBA loans. CEBA helped nearly 900,000 small businesses keep their lights on and keep their employees employed during the COVID-19 pandemic. But we've heard the asks from small businesses and they still need help. So last month, we announced that for businesses that can repay their loans and to take advantage of the forgiveness option of the up to $20,000 of forgiveness, you now have until January 18, 2024 to do so you can spend your holidays at home with your family instead of at the bank. And if you need even more time, but still want to take advantage of the forgiveness option, we're providing you more time to do so if you refinance by March 28, 2024. You can still receive that up to $20,000 for forgiveness. Lastly, if these options still don't work for you, we extended the term loan repayment deadline through to December 31st of 2026. At the core of our government's small business strategy, it's ensuring that we are helping businesses, and especially those who are women or minority-owned that have traditionally been overlooked when it comes to access and resources. Because we know that an inclusive economy is a stronger economy, and supporting everyone will help grow it even more and build a good middle-class job for all Canadians. That's why we created Canada's first ever Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy, or WES, a nearly $7 billion investment that helps give women entrepreneurs a fair chance at growing their businesses. And I've met several over the course of my time since being sworn in. And with our $10 a day childcare program, we have seen more women enter the workforce than ever before. Some of you may be familiar with Calgary's very own Livestock Water Recycling, a business owned and operated by Karen Schuett. The company's goal is to make livestock farming more sustainable with innovative agriculture products. And with a federal investment of $100,000 through WES, Karen was able to enhance her products and rapidly expand into new markets. Karen said that her experience with WES was more than just a dollar value. In fact, the federal backing combined with her access to business advisors boosted her innovation and sales, but just as crucially, team morale. We know how crucial access is to capital for entrepreneurs and small businesses that are looking to scale up as well. L'accès au capital est crucial pour les petites entreprises. And in fact, I was just in Halifax earlier this week where I announced up to $25 million for 5 fund managers through our government's inclusive growth stream of the Venture Capital Catalyst Initiative. This funding will help support entrepreneurs who are women or from underrepresented communities start up and scale up their businesses and tapping into venture capital. One of the fund managers selected under the stream that I announced in Calgary's very own female-led District Venture Capital. They will use this funding to invest in innovative companies in food and beverage and health wellness. So it's investing in companies who will also then give back to other small businesses. And more good news, Vicky is projected to inject nearly $1.6 billion into Canada's innovation market. So it's encouraging through investments into small businesses. That is what we need to do, which is also in addition to all the other supports that small businesses may have. This means more investments, more competition, a stronger economy, and most importantly, the creation of good middle-class jobs for Canadians. And I want small businesses to know that we are there for them. As a Minister of Small Business, my job is to help listen and lighten that load, a job that I take very seriously as I've gone through it myself, and personally as you do yours as well. In the weeks and months ahead, I look forward to getting to know more of you as I travel across the country. I've been traveling the country since I've been appointed, meeting with different chambers of commerce, boards of trades, and small owners, business owners directly to hear what they need and how I can help them better in my new role. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce has always been a great partner, and I hope we can even be even greater allies moving forward to the benefit of small businesses from coast to coast to coast. Thank you again for having me today, and I look forward to a vibrant discussion, and I hope everyone has a happy and rewarding Small Business Week. Support local, so get out there and support our local businesses. Thank you so much, and merci.
Well, thank you very much, Minister, and thank you again for joining the Canadian Chamber Network here in Calgary. It's very noticeable the importance you place on the stakeholder community and the Chamber Network in particular. And I'd just like to start with a bit of an observation. Going back to July 26th, it was, when Prime Minister Trudeau announced the most recent cabinet shuffle and included you as the new Minister of Small Business. And you were making some stakeholder calls that day, and we were fortunate to receive one. I was from you, and I want to thank you for that, because I think it also emphasizes the importance that you place on the Chamber Network community and the important role that we play in working with government to help formulate sound public policy, and in your portfolio, policies that will contribute to stronger, more viable, more sustainable small businesses. And yesterday we heard from Minister Anand the same about the voice of the Chamber Network, and how, quite frankly, not just with the government, but with all parliamentarians, how important that voice is as you sit down at the cabinet table and debate with each other what policies might be most effective to support small businesses. And as we heard from Perrin Beatty yesterday, we have all of the ingredients here in Canada. We've got, world-renowned institutions. We've got high quality of life. We've got incredible entrepreneurship happening. So we have all of these ingredients. Sure, we'd like to see some additional measures on reducing that red tape burden for business to truly, as we've talked about, unleash sort of that new era for growth, and making Canada the best and the absolute best place to start and scale a business. Now, in recent conversations that we've enjoyed together, you shared with me something I thought was quite insightful. And you said that in your new role, you often think about your former self and talking to your former self as that small business owner. And I'm wondering, as you've been touring across the country and meeting with small business owners and business groups, can you elaborate further on what your personal experience as a small business owner has meant in terms of the lens you look through when it comes to your role?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just for some context, I was telling Trevor, communication is so vitally important. So these types of forums are very important to me, because it isn't about me communicating to you, period. There needs to be input from the entire community. And so your advocacy on a regular basis to myself and many different colleagues that I have is vitally important. That two-way communication is something I believe in, and there's no way that I can make any decisions without knowing what's on the ground. And so back to what I was saying about communicating to my former self, I remember being in my business and like up in arms and flower, and like I'm too busy worried about my deliveries. I'm too busy about like what I need to do the next day. I didn't know that there were all these other things available to me. So I said to myself, okay, here you are, MP or minister or otherwise, what can I do? And I said, if I can communicate in a way that is simple to understand to the average small business owner, then I've done something right. And I think it's vitally important that I travel across Canada, because the voices that I'm used to hearing in Toronto are vastly different, as it turns out, when I go to Atlantic Canada, when I go to BC, very, very different. I come into rooms and I kind of have an assumption of what people are going to tell me, and I'm always wrong. Always wrong. And the reason why these communications are important is because you help tell me what I need to know that I don't already know. So I just wanted to elaborate on that.
Thank you, Minister. And we know that small businesses play such a crucial role in community building. And we saw that, of course, through the pandemic. And I think that those communities that are most successful are those that work together between businesses, with not-for-profits, with the educational sector as well. How do you see the role of small business in terms of community building, and how, through your position, can you foster more of that?
I think that's a great question. One of the things that motivated for me to run in the first place was the fact that I saw the opportunity as a small business owner myself. I was starting to network with people. I was starting to learn from others. And I think there's really power in community, and community building is the very thing that made me say, how do I do this more on a grander scale? And again, if I go back to communication, it's really important that we have conversations to learn a little bit more so that we can take it back, and particularly in cabinet, and then we can debate the things that matter. And then for me, I think it was really important for the Minister of Small Business as a ministry to be separate outside of the larger portfolio. And I appreciate everything that Minister Mary Ng has done. But the fact that it now has a focus really tells you that small businesses coming out of the pandemic need laser focus. It's very important that it has a focus, and I think it's really great that it's now its own separate thing.
That's great. And certainly beyond the current challenges, I also read recently, when we look at family-run businesses, we're looking at 75% of those over the next decade will be retiring out. And that's a significant hit, if you will, on the small business sector, and something that we need to be focused on as well. I want to turn to something that you, of course, mentioned in your remarks, and Minister Anand had a chance to respond to a delegate question on it as well, and that is the CEBA loan repayment and the measures that were undertaken to provide more time and different options for those that need that time. What do you say to those that say, thank you, Minister, but that's not enough? We're hurting here. And is there something that could have been done on a sector-specific basis or a needs basis? I'm sure that you had many conversations with your cabinet colleagues about this in the broader context of sort of the fiscal situation of the government. Can you elaborate on sort of that decision-making process, and whether there may be potential for any other cost offsets to be introduced?
That's a very important question. So for context, I already mentioned earlier, and Anita Anand might have already mentioned this as well, but we provided supports to 900,000 small businesses. That's $49 billion. And during the pandemic, CEBA loans wasn't the only thing we provided supports for small businesses. We also helped them with wage and rent subsidies so that they could also keep the lights on, keep their employees going. And so with regards to CEBA loans, this January 18th deadline was really intentioned to shift it away from we all know how busy the holiday season is. It's shifting it away from there so that businesses wouldn't be pummeled during such a very stressful time already. And then for the options that we provided were really intended to give people different options, because there are some small businesses that I've spoken to that are ready to pay for their CEBA loans. And so that it ensures that those who are ready to pay will be able to get the $20,000 forgiveness. And then, of course, if you're not quite ready to do so, you have additional time with the refinancing. And I think that's the part that is not being heard, is the refinancing is still available for you up to $20,000. You'll be able to receive it by March 28 if you work with your financial institution to do so. Now, that being said, I've met with Restaurants Canada, met with various different stakeholders, and there is, I think tourism is hardest hit as well as the restaurant industry. And so I'm still meeting with others, and that's actually important why I'm out here touring, so that I can bring that feedback up to cabinet to see what more we can do. But at least from an extension perspective, that's up to December 31st, 2026, that will provide more time, more flexibility for small businesses.
Thank you very much. So I'll take that as a promising signal that we're still listening as a government, and there may be other ideas that are brought to bear as you continue to hear from business and bring that back to your cabinet colleagues. So thank you.
Absolutely.
A challenge frequently cited by small business owners, and I should mention too, we are going to have a few minutes to take some questions from the audience as well. A challenge cited by small business owners, particularly women and members of Indigenous, Black, 2SL, LGBTQI plus communities, is the challenge of securing startup and scale-up capital. And you mentioned, the announcement that was made this past week in Halifax, and I often think about my early interactions with one of Canada's most successful entrepreneurs, and that being Joanna Griffiths, the hugely successful founder of Nix. And many women in the room will be very familiar with Nix. And I remember speaking with Joanna years ago. We had hosted her when I was with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and she had just come out of a couple of Kickstarter campaigns because she was receiving closed doors from the traditional institutions. And we hear these stories, particularly, as I said, from racialized businesses, women-owned businesses, Indigenous, et cetera, and just that struggle and that frustration. Could you speak a little bit more to both the announcement that was made this week and how that will help, and any other measures that the government may be contemplating to make access to capital more accessible?
For sure. I got a chance to meet Joanne on the Hill when she came and visited for a Futurepreneur event. But I briefly mentioned it in my opening, but I think one of the most important, like if you look at everything that we're doing, it's all about being inclusive with entrepreneurship, raising up everyone who has the interest. So with the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy, the first of its kind, it's really empowering and enabling small business entrepreneurs, whether you're a woman entrepreneur, Black, 2SL, LGBTQI+, Indigenous, it's empowering them to also be part of the larger economy, to be able. I think one of the things I always think about is, I talked about my example being, having that spark. It happened for me, it happened to be like a birthday cake, right? But for so many other entrepreneurs, they have so much to give. And the ideas, I've traveled this country, and the ideas that people tell me and what they've been able to accomplish through those ideas is phenomenal. And they've turned that idea into something, whether it's a product or service, and they market it. But it's more getting those ideas out and about, supporting them. And through the different programs that we have, it's really intended to be able to support those ideas. And of course, bring up everyone, Canada is such a diverse country, right? Especially here in Alberta. And it's really supporting them holistically to get there. And then the announcement that I made in Halifax was more about tapping into venture capitalism and leveraging that in the private funds that are available to invest in the same thing. Inclusive entrepreneurship, the diverse community of entrepreneurs that we have, and it's really all about that. And I think I want to give a shout out also to Minister Philomena Tassi with Federal Development. She does such, with all the initiatives that we do, every investment always keeps in mind, how are we supporting Canadian jobs, keeping the jobs here in Canada, and how do we support them? And we're trying to, of course, like when it comes to sustainability, support those businesses who are focused on greening the economy at the same time. So I just wanted to mention those.
No, absolutely. And I did have a question on that as well. And just before I ask that question, on diversity, we're so blessed in our home community of Mississauga to have such diversity, but that doesn't mean that we are optimizing it, for economic growth and for quality of life and for trade and all these other pieces. So I think it's important to keep pressing it and finding ways that we can engage with all of our diverse communities, because that is such a real selling point that so many communities, not only in Canada, but internationally, would love to have. So just on that point, I thought I'd just comment on that. Sustainability and environmental concerns, you mentioned it just now. Increasingly important considerations for consumers. It's also an increasing requirement of the public sector and of larger enterprise as part of their procurement procurement policies. We know it's already difficult for many small businesses to, as I say, get in the door, whether that's with selling to the government and being a vendor to government, or whether that be to some large enterprise. We often hear how many of the first customers for these innovative firms are outside of Canada. So I'm wondering, how does your ministry plan to assist small businesses in adopting sustainable practices and reducing their carbon footprints?
Sure, I think that's a great question. So one example, so earlier today, I just had a roundtable with small businesses in a local cafe. This business owner had a really great idea. He creates vitamins, and it's a couple. They create vitamins to a very specific targeted market. And he was like, Richie, I have this amazing product, but the thing is, it's like, how do I market it to the larger companies, whether that's like Shoppers Drug Mart or Walmart or what have you? I think part of the role that I play that's really unique is listening to the opportunities directly from small businesses like this perfect example, and almost build the connections and the network so that it's almost like bringing people together so that they can continue to support one another. That's one way of doing it. But for sustainability, I think it's really vitally important that we support all the businesses who are looking to green their activities in their business. And I will continue to listen to whatever ideas that they may have and connect them to the right people and organizations centrally.
Yeah, and it's something we talk about quite a bit at the Board of Trade in Mississauga is the fact that this isn't just about doing what's right, and I think we all agree that we need to address these challenges that we're facing, but it's increasingly, day by day, week by week, becoming a competitiveness issue, and you're not going to be able to compete and play in the global economy if you aren't addressing the issues of sustainability and environment, etc. So at this time, would you like to?
Yeah, and I think like what was when I went from east to the Atlantic to BC, I met with businesses who were dramatically impacted by whether it's the fires or where it was a hurricane. Some of them had to close down. And I just want to say that it's vitally important for us to ensure that whatever we're doing is focused on taking action on climate change. I cannot stress that enough. It's important for us to know that the impacts that is climate change is very real, and especially those small businesses on the ground who are being impacted by it.
Good stuff. At this time, I'd like to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions. So if you do have a question, I see someone may be coming up to the microphone here. Please let us know who you are, where you're from, and the minister will be pleased to hear from you.
Hello, Serena Parsons, Bonnyville and District Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Honorable Valdez, for being here today. Today I stand before you not just as an advocate, but as a voice for countless businesses that have weathered storms of uncertainty and many economic challenges. Our plea is simple, yet I think resonant, adding additional changes to the CEBA loan. It's not just a financial lifeline, it is a beacon of hope and the very essence of our economic vitality. I know you have heard this. I know this is redundant, but that is because it is important and it is vital. We agree there has to be effort made on repayment. We know that. 18 days, Christmas or not, is not enough. Many won't qualify through their banks with refinancing. That is a good option. We agree with that. But the term loan repayment should be longer. That if you had the full maximum CEBA loan, that's nearly $2,000 a month in repayment for the full $60,000. The term, so it should be longer. If businesses make their minimum payments for a year, maybe allow them to have some access to more forgivable amount. If you see effort, here's a benefit. So we think that there can be more changes and more discussions brought to the table. We did see the efforts made, and the initial lifeline offered with CEBA was a testament to the government's commitment to stand with businesses. And we believe that you still have that commitment, and there is still time to show that. An extension of the CEBA loan is not a mere extension of financial support. It is an investment in our economic resurgence. The CEBA loan is not just about policies, it's about people, dreams, the promises of a brighter economic future. Let us extend that lifeline of hope.
I just want to thank you for your feedback. It is what I've been hearing as well. I think what I want to say about what she said specifically was other alternatives or options. What I am looking at specifically is what's resounding for sure is that tourism, hospitality sector, and restaurants, they're the ones right now that are experiencing it the worst. And that is what I will take back to cabinet and advocate for on behalf of small businesses. So I do want to thank you for your candor. And nonprofits.
Thank you. And we have France Fournier, Oakville Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Minister, thank you for joining us. Is this on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. Applaud the government for reaching an agreement with both Visa and MasterCard in the 2023 budget, lowering transaction fees. Is there a next step that the government will be taking with those companies? Because we've not seen those lower transaction fees yet. Was there a timeline? If you can expand on that a little bit. Thank you.
That's a great question. As far as timeline, it's something that I'm working on right now as we speak with my team, working with MasterCard and Visa. For me, it's like ASAP, right? So the sooner the better. But as soon as I have any updates, I'm going to come back to the Canadian Chamber of Commerce to then disseminate that information down to everybody else that's here. You're welcome.
Thank you. And Rakesh Naidu with the, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I've missed you over there unintentionally.
Thank you. Anita Haberman, I'm the president of the Surrey Board of Trade. Thank you for coming out to Surrey in August. I just wanted to let you know that we need to uplift the spirit of entrepreneurialism within Canada. And one of the tools that can really help with that and doing some cross-ministry work is doing and engaging and committing to a comprehensive tax review. It is that bottom line productivity that is impacting that spirit of entrepreneurialism for small and medium-sized businesses. So we hope the federal government will engage in that, and it could be an opportunity to save government money, but to also find revenue growth for the federal government.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. I just want to add something. So Anita brought up a good point when I went out there to BC. Then I also heard in a few other roundtables, and so I just want to mention some of the tax credits. Tax credits is something that I've heard, and I've been asking for small businesses to give me ideas on what type of tax credits would be very helpful to them. And Trevor, you were asking earlier about sustainability, and we do have what we implemented last year was the clean technology tax credit. For instance, 30%. We will cover 30% of any investment that a small business makes into greening their business. And so we'll continue to look at different opportunities, but what I need from small businesses are the specific areas, or sorry, what I'm collecting is ideas on what specific areas we can help as far as tax credit concerns, but I do hear you, Anita, and I thank you for your feedback.
Great, and thank you for being open to those ideas. Rakesh Naidu with Windsor-Essex Regional Chamber.
Thank you, Trevor. Minister, thank you for being here. Trevor mentioned about the challenges that businesses have, especially startups, to access funds. In the past, the federal government used to have the Investor Immigrant Program, which brought in roughly about $800,000 for those that could invest here in Canada, in a small business specifically, and create further employment. That program got paused, I think, in 2014. Is there any plan to bring back some similar programs? Because that's one way to bring access to funds for the startups.
I think that's a great observation, and I would love it if you could, my team's right here, if you could send me more information. I can certainly look and explore that going forward if it was paused in the past.
And something maybe you can raise with the new immigration minister.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Thank you. Could you send? Perfect.
Absolutely.
Great. Any further questions from the audience? Yes.
Hello, Minister. I'm Alison Kirkland. I'm here with the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, but I'm also the CEO of the Women's Enterprise Organizations of Canada. And this is really just a shout out to all the work that the government has been doing in support of women entrepreneurs. We are one of the administrators of the National Loan Fund for Women, and we have been doing that for less than a year. We've dispersed almost $3 million in loans that are just up to $50,000. So I really just want to commend you for the work that you've done and that your predecessor, Minister Ng, did to really create a great foundation. And there's still lots of work to be done, but of course, it's a great start, and we look forward to having more conversations with you. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. Two things before we take another question. First of all, it's very rarely that I get, I appreciate that I also want to know what we're doing right. So I appreciate the feedback and the input. And for the women entrepreneurship strategy as a whole, such an important initiative I think we need to continue to support. And I heard that clearly as I've traveled across the country. So I appreciate that. And thank your team for me for all that they do.
Yes, and at this microphone over here, please.
Minister, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm Prabha. I'm with the Saskatchewan Chamber of Commerce. I'm the CEO. And thank you as well for taking the time to phone stakeholders when you made the decision to extend the repayment of the loan. I don't have a question, just want to make a comment that in Saskatchewan, small business is big business, and they count for about 99% of all businesses. And Saskatchewan has the second highest rate of small businesses per capita in the country. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend an invitation to you to come and visit small businesses in Saskatchewan.
I'll be there. Thank you. I've traveled to Saskatchewan already. I took this long drive from Saskatoon to Regina to meet some community leaders, so I'll definitely be back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have time for one more. I'm not sure if that
mic number 2.
Sound, folks.
Is this mic working? We could do this side while you set that up.
No?
It's okay, I'll come to you.
Right. Just join you up there. So yeah, thanks so much for being here. And I've got a question around cybersecurity. So we've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of days about this. And we've had a lot of meaningful investment in businesses on digital. But a lot of it's come around digital marketing, digital infrastructure, that kind of thing. And when it comes to SMEs, a lot of them are lacking the internal resources to really handle cybersecurity and the financial resources to hire someone else to come in and do it right. And I'm wondering if we can be rolling out some programs to offer various levels of support so that those smaller businesses can work with professionals to protect not only their business, but our supply networks and everything that comes with having our businesses safe and secure online.
Yeah, I'd like to ask the room how many phishing emails you've received today, but Minister, yes.
I get a lot of those. So great question. So just thanks for the question. It gives me an opportunity to talk about the Canada Digital Adoption Program. For those small businesses in the room who are not aware of this program, through the Canada Digital Adoption Program, when you sign up for it, what it'll do is it'll help you get a special advisor who's local to your area. I know you're all busy working on your business. You'll have an extra expert come in and assess your business, take a look at whether you need your help with your website, go in, improve your social media presence. They'll provide options for you to take a look at and explore. And in addition to that, we'll also then provide you with funds to hire someone that can help you through that transition because you simply might not have that bandwidth on your team. That's stream 1. But with stream 2, what I'm trying to look at with the Canada Digital Adoption Program is, inclusiveness with regards to helping with cybersecurity. I've heard that loud and clear. And separate to that program entirely, just so you're aware, anyone who is in this room that's curious about artificial intelligence and like the direction in which we're going at, that's also something that I'm looking at. And I just wanted you to know it's all around tech.
Excellent. I think we're all very, very interested in artificial intelligence and where it's going and how quickly it's coming to us. So thank you for that, Minister. At this time, I would like to introduce Julien Baudry with the Montreal Port Authority, where he serves as Director of Public Affairs. The largest port in Eastern Canada, the Port of Montreal connects Canada to more than 140 countries through trade and tourism. Julien acts as a representative of the port to Canadian and international institutions working to strengthen the influence of strategic activities with key partners. He manages the Strategic Communications Plan and the Government Relations Plan for the Port of Montreal. Port of Montreal, of course, is a valued sponsor of this AGM and convention, and I give the podium to you, Julien.